Are we taping yet? Okay, good. Hey class, it's Monday afternoon, so it's time for another fabulous action-packed video from Faye. I'm gonna turn this light off quick. It's a little better. It's glaring right in my eyes. Okay, so we're about to start week 4. It's Monday afternoon, and I think since there's only a few rough drafts in Waypoint so far, many of you are right now busily finishing up your rough draft in time to submit it by midnight tonight. So, as always in these little videos, I have a few comments for you on last week's work and then a few as we move forward into next week. First of all, I think that some of you read my comments on the week 1 discussions as please tell us more of what the text says, because we got a lot of entries in the week 2 discussions that were basically recaps of the information contained in the text. So I want to remind you, although that's great, what the discussions are still missing is a bit more of your own analysis. So I thought it'd be helpful to give you guys a little review of what that would look like. It is true that thing 1, your discussion entries need to clearly indicate that you have read the material in the text. But they also, thing 2, need to have some personal connection or a connection to some outside material, or a connection to something you think about in our own culture that expands upon what the author says and brings in more of what you think about it. And then thing 3, you need to be able to back up your own opinions with some scholarly sources. So again, I want to hear a little more than just what the text says and more than just this is my opinion, right? Those seem like the 2 options that we have right now. Some of each of those. And also, this is what it tells me about the world. This is what my understanding of what I just read is. Not just what Crapo says, because frankly, I already know what he thinks on the subject. I want to know what you think on it. Okay, let's see. Well, it's Monday afternoon, so your rough drafts are due by midnight. I want to remind you that since this is one of our large assignments, you will lose 10% of the points for each day you are late over the next 3 days. So that's basically dropping a full lettered grade for each day that you're late, and that's the university policy, not my own. So I really want to strongly caution you to get your paper in as soon as possible, to make sure when you're loading up to Waypoint that it actually loaded up and is there. There's a handy check submission button so you can make sure that it's there. Let's see. Oh, and just in case you watch this afternoon and you're still writing, I want to remind you that the assignment is to compare 2 specific, distinct, and contemporary cultural groups that are not your own, which means, as many students do, it will not be okay for you to say, this is how they do, for instance, marriage in Japan, and this is how we do marriage at home, and I'm going to compare those 2 things, because the U.S. is your own cultural group, okay? It also doesn't really work for you to be like, I'm going to compare what Catholics think about marriage and Jews think about marriage in the U.S., because again, in your own culture, and 2, those are subcultures that are part of the greater American culture. So, ixnay on the USA. Great. Okay, let's see. Oh, this is week 4. You know what that means? It means you don't have a big written assignment this week. You do still have the discussion forums, and of course you have a small quiz. But unlike week 2 and week 3, and for that matter week 5, you don't have a written assignment. So please use this time to be working on your final paper, which again is going to be 20% of your grade. It's a pretty big deal. Even if your paper's not back yet, you can be using this time to start making that paper stronger. And I really want to encourage you to use some of the resources we have available to do that. You may have noticed in the assignment, in both the rough draft and the final draft page, there are links directly to the Writing Center and to the library. Both of those places have some great help for you. The library has a live chat where you can ask a question about, am I referencing this properly? Is this thing plagiarism? I don't understand what I got back on my rough draft. So all of those things are possible. You can also send me an email. I'm happy to respond at any time. I check email several times a day, although I do go to bed early, so if you send it to me late in the evening, which often happens on the night a assignment is due, I'm probably not going to see it till the next morning. Also, I'm on the East Coast, so if you're on the West Coast, going to bed early for me is really quite early for you. Okay, let's see what else. Oh, There's lots of good information at that UNC Chapel Hill Writing Center that you checked out in week 2. And there's tons of information right in our classroom. Okay, there's some sample papers, there's lots of stuff about plagiarism. Helpful thing, you can run your own paper through Turnitin before you turn it in to me. And that lets you check and see if there are any places where you have inadvertently plagiarized and lets you fix them before you actually turn it in to me, which is really pretty awesome. So you should take advantage of that. An advantage of this time to be thinking about your final paper, about the clear comparison you want to make, about what you think you're going to learn from that comparison. Even if you're not actively working on your paper, keep a little scrap of paper around that you can make notes about things that might come to you as you go through your day. You can add that into your final paper and make it stronger. Okay, so this is short and quick and dirty today. This week coming up, we are moving on to talk about religion and political organization. These are going to be really fascinating weeks of conversation. I do have one little reminder for you, and that is the religion class is one in which folks often have very strong opinions, which is super great. And we do absolutely want to hear about your experience, but I do want to remind you that we are writing about the anthropological view of religion this week, which means that the bulk of your work should not be about your personal relationship with God. Instead, we want to hear about the role that religion serves in a community, which your own experience is going to deepen and expand upon, which would be great. But remember, still a scholarly class, right? Support your argument, make some good points, be respectful of one another. I look forward to some really great conversation in the forums this week, and more of it because there were a couple of you that did not show up this last week. And I look forward to reading your rough drafts. And just as a little reminder, those rough drafts will be returned to you by Sunday night at the latest. So if you haven't seen it in the first couple of days, it's because I still have all of your regular grading to do before I get started on those. So if you need me, send me an email. And if you're really struggling, we can always set up some office hours on Skype and have a conversation face-to-face. I'm happy to do that, and students have found it to be very helpful. All right, enjoy week 4. Go do the reading. Bye.